If you guys want more free videos here on Seattle Seahawks Today, then subscribe. Not really sure what you guys are waiting for at this point. Remember, it's a meritocracy here at Chat Sports. The more subscribers, the more views, the more videos you guys get. And other channels are really starting to catch up to us here on Seattle Seahawks Today, which makes me a very sad person. So, help us out. Help yourself out. Hit that big red button by subscribing right now. You're watching Seattle Seahawks Today. I am Tom Downey here with everything going on around the Seahawks. And today's video focuses all on trade rumors for Seattle. Before we really get going on this video, I just want to say, please do not shoot the messenger. Those of you who've watched for a while know I don't want to trade away Russell Wilson. But when major media suggests a trade could happen, we have to discuss it. So, with that in mind, Albert Breer has linked the Eagles to Russell Wilson when asked in part of his mailbag, which he didn't have to include, he picked it, where Russ plays in 2022. Now, the Russ trade buzz, as we all know, has lingered for about a year now. And again, your agent does not put out a list of teams you would be down to be traded for unless there were some semblance of truth to it. Now, I believe the recent reports say Russ wants to evaluate all his options this year. In the end, I think it comes down to Russ and what Wilson wants to do in the short term and the long term. Here's what Albert Breer wrote. Quote, "My sense is all of that remains in flux when asked about a Russell Wilson trade, and Wilson is open to exploring his options. Owner Jody Allen is the X factor. I've heard she's for keeping Russ, which wouldn't exactly be a wild train of thought for an owner. I would argue what the owner would want to do, right? The question has been how badly and what it'll mean if Wilson eventually becomes more forceful about seeking a new home. Meanwhile, from a team-building standpoint, it's fair to surmise that this might actually be an ideal time to move Wilson. While he's still relatively young and has 2 years left on his contract, that's what Matthew Stafford had left when he was traded. If I had to guess, I'd say he eventually gets moved. And I have said that this was going to be the Saints a month ago. Now that Sean Payton is gone, let's put him in the NFC East to the Eagles. In a way, it was sort of a redemptive move for Howie Roseman, who was part of a front office that planned to take Wilson in the third round in 2012, only to have Seattle scoop him up earlier in the round. Remember, the Seahawks should not trade Russell Wilson. I think from a long-term team-building standpoint, sure, I want to win football games right now. I think Seattle is best served trying to win while you have a franchise QB. You know how tough it is to find a Russell Wilson? Like, you could be the Browns searching for decades for a QB half as good as Russ is. I would not give that QB away. In the end, though, the ball is in Russell Wilson's court. If he says, F you, I'm out, what are you going to be able to do? I think if Russell Wilson says, I want to stick in Seattle, pay him. In fact, you know what? Offer a new deal to Russ to help convince him to stay in the short term and the long term in Seattle. I don't want to trade him, but it's a non-zero chance he gets dealt. Hopefully it's low, but it's non-zero. So what do you guys think? Be honest with me in the comments section. What is the percent chance you think the Seahawks end up trading away Russell Wilson? All right, we're going to talk some more trade rumors, ideas out there here, and with both edge rusher and receiver. Now, we'll begin with edge rusher. These ideas floated by 710 Seattle. 3 names mentioned: Danielle Hunter, Za'Darius Smith, and Cameron Jordan. I would argue all 3 are somewhat unlikely. And a couple of these were mentioned as a cut candidate by the kind of group together. Hunter, God, I would love him. Then restructure his deal and just bring him in the fold. Za'Darius Smith, injured year this past year, good football player. Cam Jordan was mentioned as a post-June 1st trade. It's just, Jordan is the least likely of this group. Now, I don't believe that edge is that big of a need for Seattle if you use Jamal Adams like he should be used. But if you traded or got one of these 3 guys, I wouldn't be mad at it. Danielle Hunter in 7 games last year was a baller. 6 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Za'Darius Smith missed some time. He's a good football player. And Cam Jordan is awesome. And frankly, keeps up for another 4 or 5 years. It's a Hall of Fame career from Cam Jordan. So pick an edge rusher for me. If you could, hypothetically, get any of these 3 guys, who would it be? Type DH for Danielle Hunter, ZS for Za'Darius Smith, or CJ for Cam Jordan. Let's talk more about each of these 3 guys here. Hunter is next up. The red flag here are injuries. 7 games in the past 2 years. But when he is out there, he's getting basically a sack per game. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot. You put a sack per game up, you are a first ballot All-Pro pretty much every single season. So if you could get Hunter, and the Vikings could be prepared to blow it up, I'd be all for it. I don't think it's that likely to be a trade. If they do surprise and they cut him, I am in on Hunter, as frankly 31 other NFL teams should be. Cam Jordan, meanwhile, a little bit lesser version of Hunter. He'd be a fantastic fit for what Seattle historically has liked to do under Pete Carroll. The argument was Saints are in cap hell. Well, we know that's not true. You don't have to be in cap hell. Now, if they want to blow it up, I'd call. They save like no one of the pre-June 1st trade, so I don't think Jordan's on the move. Then there's Za'Darius Smith. Now, this article was part of a cut candidate or trade list. I could see Smith getting cut. And if he does get cut, I would have interest in adding him on a, 2-year, $20 million deal. So I think of these 3 guys, I would actually argue that Za'Darius Smith is the most obtainable from a realistic standpoint. And he's also the least talented of these 3 guys. But, in the NFL, most teams don't trade away their good players unless they're Houston. Now, today's show is powered by BetUS. Texans catching strays for no reason. Chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Seahawks125. When you put down at least $100, that'll get you a 125% deposit bonus. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Seahawks125 gets you that 125% deposit bonus. You can bet on, I would assume, the Bengals. I assume we're all rooting for Cincinnati because I don't want to see the Rams win the title. You can bet on them, against them, whatever, at chatsports.com/bet. Just remember, promo code Seahawks125 gets you the 125% deposit bonus. Let's go to receiver now. And the argument here, as part of a SI article, which I thought was pretty decent, was buy low wide receiver guys, because you don't need a big-time name. You've got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and D. Eskridge, you hope breaks out. But if you want to find a cheap receiver for or insurance for D. Eskridge, okay. 4 names mentioned on this list: Darius Slayton, Denzel Mims, Scotty doesn't know Miller, and N'Keal Harry. And these are, to an extent, 4 real buy low guys. Slayton is probably the best of the grouping from a talent and production standpoint. Denzel Mims, intriguing buy low name. Scotty Miller's got upside as a slot, and N'Keal Harry has been... The Patriots really wish they had drafted DK Metcalf over N'Keal Harry. So if you could get one of these 4 guys, who would it be? And you can factor in the cost of a trade as well. Type DS for Darius Slayton, DM for Denzel Mims, SM for Scotty Miller, and NH for N'Keal Harry. Darius Slayton, I think, has the highest trade value of anyone. His numbers were down this year, but he's not that far removed from being a really good, reliable vertical threat. So I'm going to cross him off this list, because I don't think the Jets give him up for what Seattle would consider, or the Giants would consider, a true buy low guy. Scotty Miller, the next guy I cross off this list. With the Bucs having some key free agents, I think they retain Miller, especially with maybe losing Chris Godwin, and keep Miller as a key part of that receiver rotation. So I'm crossing him off my list as well. N'Keal Harry, next up here. Intern Jack loves him because he went to Arizona State. He can't get open. Frankly, I don't think I want him on my team. That leaves, in the end, Denzel Mims. And if you could utilize him, and where the Jets have refused to do so, I think Mims has been improperly used by the Jets. So if I could get him for a fifth, I would have quite a bit of interest if I were Seattle. Is it likely? I'm not sure, but that's the name that I actually like as a buy low wide receiver target.